The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire. Jose, Babai, Faith, and Olivia. The Rise. Rome started with the Latins, Greeks, and Etruscans. An Etruscan king became the first king of the Roman Empire. Various kings ordered the construction of Rome's first temples and public centers. After the reign of the last Roman king, Tarquin the Proud, the Romans declared they would never be ruled by a king again, and they established a republic. Different groups of people struggled for power. The patricians, or wealthy landowners, inherited most power, where plebeians had their representatives called tribunes. This is where the strict code of law comes in. The 12 Tables was a written law code that said all people, rich or poor, were equal under the law. These laws were publicly displayed around the city. The 12 Tables became a basis of Roman law. They touched around many areas of law, not only civil law, but public and religious laws that applied to larger scale institutions. They did not write new laws, they simply published and displayed them, which made Rome a more civil and enforced society. Also, the 12 Tables are very similar to today's constitution. Strength and military. The Romans took great value in their army. They had a large, strong military. Their organization and skilled soldiers were key factors into their rise to greatness. All citizens who owned land were recruited to serve in the army. They were organized into military units called legions. Legions were made up of 5,000 heavily armed foot. The amount of strength and organization, along with the great patriotism of the men, gave Rome a great advantage when it came to conquering land.
Acceptance of culture.
Romans mainly spread their power through trade and conquest. Not all Romans conquered were treated equally, but they were all accepted. Some Romans became full citizens, others had all Roman rights except voting, and everyone else who were allies just supplied troops. They adapted to languages and new technologies. The way the Romans accepted culture and spread their own made them much more diverse and advanced. The technological advancements of ancient Rome still today impact our society. They were great builder and expert civil engineers. They produced advancements in technology that have been effective for centuries. One of their largest advancements were the aqueducts. They moved water to provide amenities like underground sewage and public bathrooms. They used cement and concrete, which is remarkably durable and has had an impact on the Roman structures that still stand today. Also, roads were very effective. They gave the Romans an easier route to trade and access to the rest of their large empire. The Roman arches are still greatly used all over the world today. The Romans benefited greatly with the use of them in aqueducts and large public buildings. Aqueducts gave the Romans the amenities of public toilets, underground sewage systems, and fountains. Were stone, lead, and concrete pipelines that used gravity to transport water to the center of cities. Aqueducts became an expression of power and wealth. All people living in Rome benefited from them because they allowed less polluted water and a more reliable water supply. Having an expansive trade network not only allowed the Romans to trade goods with other civilizations, but to adapt and absorb the customs, languages, and technologies, making them a more diverse and advanced society. After the rise of the Roman Empire, there was a 200-year period of peace known as the Pax Romana, or the Roman peace, where the Romans thrived.
The fall.
Inflation. The Roman economy went through a drastic drop in the value of money, which brought the rising prices. This started because Rome reached their limit of expansion. They then lacked the flow of gold into their economy. They were using all their gold to pay for luxury items. There became less and less gold to use in coins. The gap in social classes between East and West. Diocletian decided that the Roman Empire had grown too large for only one ruler. He decided to divide the empire into two, separating the Greek-speaking East from the Latin-speaking West. Diocletian still took overall control, but he did have a co-ruler for the East. Recruitment of non-Roman citizens. This is called mercenaries, which are foreign soldiers who fought for money. Many times, if the other side will offer more money, they will switch aside depending on how much money is given to them.
Many different social classes in Rome, such as the patricians, who were the absolute rulers of Rome. To be one of the emperors, it doesn't have to be hereditary. The patrician's job was to watch, protect, and make the best decisions for Rome. Then you had the senators, which were the second rulers in line. Once you were elected as a senator, they had to progress through all different ranks of magistrates, which is a civil officer who administers the law. The senators also hold the highest official offices. After the senators, you have the equestrians, who were usually tax collectors, miners, or exporters. They were in the finance part of the country who worked on the taxes. If you were an equestrian, you could possibly be a senator one day. Now we have the plebeians, who had little individual power. They held their own meetings, elections, and kept their own records. Plebeians were normal working citizens. Next we have the slaves and the free men in Rome, who were usually foreigners, prisoners, sailors, pirates, or slaves brought to Rome. Now we have the Roman military, who were the most successful in the world. They were the most feared, and they were very major in the Roman politics. The last on the social class of Rome were the women, who weren't allowed to vote or do anything outside of the house. All they were to do is clean, cook, and take care of their children. 6 different civil wars that included Rome. There were civil wars fought against the Eastern and Western Rome, and there were civil wars fought against other countries. The wars that were fought with Eastern and Western Rome were the most influential to Rome. The civil wars were the reason for the fall of Rome and the fall of their own empire. Since there was so many wars, it was a part of a normal Roman life.
The Romans declared they will never be ruled by a king again, so they established a republic, a form of government in which power rests with citizens who had the right to vote for their leaders. There were patricians and plebeians. Patricians said they had the authority because of their high powers to make laws for Rome. Plebeians, on the other hand, didn't have the high healthy powers that patricians had, but Rome's leaders allowed the plebeians to have their own assembly and also elect representatives called tribunes. They also forced the creation of written and displayed laws called the Laws of the 12 Tables. Language. Romans knew Greek and Latin. They had learned Greek because after taking over Greece, the Romans greatly admired the Greek culture. Latin remained the language of the learning in the West long after the fall of Rome. Architecture. Master building visitors from all over the empire marveled at the architecture of Rome. The arc, the dome, stone, sand, and concrete were used to build great things, like the Colosseum, bridges, aqueducts, and roads. The aqueduct brought water into cities and towns. Roads were great because of how they connected to everywhere in the empire, and the Colosseum was like a stadium used for entertainment for their citizens.